episode 10, and it's the end of the
Hi everybody.
What are you doing?
I thought you might need me again.
No, you were too expensive last week.
Roll the credits!
Well, we made it, folks. It's the end of the series, and we've got to episode 10. And it's called, bear with me a minute, The Battle of Ranskoor of Kolos. Sounds like a conundrum to me. Not that conundrum, another conundrum. Which basically is a translation which is the disintegrator of the soul. So, time for some plot now. So we've got the Ooks or Ooks, and they are dimensional engineers who worship something called the Creator. And with their faith and their powers, they're able to make things out of rock. And just as their powers are at their height, something or someone arrives. So we move forward 3,407 years, and the Doctor has received 9 distress calls that she wants to go and investigate. And so they arrive on the planet, and there's a lot of weird stuff that can happen on this planet. So they're wearing neural balancers. These neural balancers are there to stop the planet interfering with your mind and means that you can focus. We meet a character called Peltraki, and he can't even remember his own name. Obviously he's being affected by the planet, and that gives us the mystery that's allowed to unfold as the story goes along. Once he's got his inhibitor on, then he starts to get little parts of his memory comes. And this creator that they've been worshipping for the last 3,500 years turns out to be Tim Shaw from episode 1. When Graham realises who it is, he knows he's got some unfinished business. So we're bombarded with lots of dialogue, lots of information, lots of backtracking over old parts of the story, adding in new bits as we go along, and the Doctor's got a real dilemma on her hands. Now, I think Tim Shaw was a lot better here than he was in the very first episode. He seems much more a rounded villain in this piece. I did find that some of the speeches and things that we were saying with the music and the special effect on his voice were occasionally a little bit hard to pick out. So I feel like I lost little bits of information there that might have been absolutely crucial to keeping this plot together. The plot, turns out, was very similar to the plot of Stolen Earth. Even the Doctor actually mentioned Stolen Earth in this episode, and I think that's Chris Chibnall acknowledging that there are some similarities there. Tim Shaw wants to take revenge on the Doctor for what she did to him, and I presume that the revenge comes from the fact that the other planet that he's going to take is Earth. As we go through this story, it feels an awful lot like old Doctor Who. We're definitely getting a classic Doctor Who vibe from Chris Chibnall's work here, particularly, and not just because there are 3 companions, particularly the 5th Doctor. It just feels that the whole design of it, the whole characteristics of the Doctor here, and the way it's played out is very much like early 80s Doctor Who. So you've got presented with these characters, the Doctor comes in, there's a big problem, the stakes are high, and then as it's resolved, everybody makes friends and they thank the Doctor at the end and off they go. So if you look at episodes like Kinder, for example, it's got that sort of feel to it as well. And we've got some great dialogue here where the Doctor confronts Graham and says that, you know, if he kills Tim Shaw, that's it. He's finished on the TARDIS. There's no coming back from that. And as the story develops, we see a great interaction between Graham and Ryan as their family relationship has really truly grown now. Not only does he call him grandfather again, or granddad, he actually says, I love you. And we get again, oh, what was that? What did you just say? And Graham and his bond with Ryan is so strong that he couldn't jeopardise that. Grace wouldn't allow him to jeopardise that either. And it's just a nice little interplay between those two characters. They are the ones that have developed and rounded the most. So therefore we get on to companion number 3. Yaz is not needed. She is lost in this TARDIS group. She has become the character that draws little bits out of other people, or draws little bits of the plot out for the audience. She's there for us. She's there to give us information, or to tell us how things are feeling, or where the Doctor needs a little bit of support. She's like a third leg, and quite frankly, I can't see why she's there anymore. She's fine as an actress, but there's just no reason for her to be there. And that is a shame. And the Doctor is good in this story. She's in charge, she's in control. We get lots of little interplay there between her and Tim Shaw, and there's a good battle of wits there in little places. It's one of those stories where you've got to the end of the series and the stakes normally are raised really, really high. In this one, the stakes are raised a little bit. We've got planets that are in danger. We've got Earth presumably in danger, but because it's locked down to a small cast, you don't feel the weight of all of that going on. We've even got these characters who were in these cryo chambers, and they get released. We have no interplay with them. We get no understanding of who they are, where they come from, how they feel, anything like that. They're just tossed aside because they're not important in this story. So it does feel very, very, very small. So the stakes really don't feel that threatening. Even our characters, the Ooks or Ooks, whatever they're called, are very, very generic. I feel that this particular story is the best of Chibnall's work so far. In this one, he's taken all those characters and brought them to where they should be at this point. We've got a nice closing out for Jodie Whittaker. She makes a nice little speech at the end, but it's not one of those grand Doctor speeches. It's very subtle, it's very soft, and it's taking us to the next stage. It's just tying everything up nice and neat. Big contrast to a kind of Stephen Moffat story where there's stuff left hanging over, or it's very dramatic ending, and we're on to the next part of the adventure with still questions buzzing around in your head. Most of what's happened in this series has been self-contained, so therefore you haven't got many things to wrap up here. So if this series were to be the last, you wouldn't have anything hanging over for another series there. Except we then get a tiny trailer for the New Year's episode. And that is another story. So to finally sum up for this episode, it's one of those you really need to watch more than once. So as a final story written by Chris Chibnall, we've got less clunk and more drama. That's how I would sum that up. And so to give it a score, it's a difficult one, this one, because I really did enjoy it, and it did take me along at a nice steady pace. A couple of moments of more excitement, and then other moments of drama within it. It was quite a nice balance. I wouldn't say it was the most perfect one in the series, but it certainly has laid the groundwork now of this is how Chris wants to do his Doctor Who. This is the way he wants to do it. And whether you accept that or not, those elements are there in each story if you work backwards now and look at how it's been driven through all the way through this series. So to give it a score, tricky one, but I'm going to stake my reputation, not that I've got one, but I'm going to say for me that's an 8 out of 10. Been lots of 8 out of 10s in this series. This is another one, which means that there are a couple of clunkers in this series. that caused a few problems with myself and with other people on the internet, I'm sure. And this one will be no different. But it was an okay episode, and as an end of a series, wasn't too bad. Very different to what we've had before. And so that's me wrapping up Series 11. We've seen all 10 episodes now, so maybe when you've watched this one, you might want to like, subscribe, and roll back through and have a look at some of the ones that you've missed and see what you think about those as well. So give me some comments, tell me what you think, tell me if you liked it, if you didn't, tell me why, and we will see you very, very shortly. There will be a new video out every week, even though we've got to the end of the series. We've got our other series coming up, which is Doctor Who's Tops and Flops, and you'll like that. It's a bit of a ranking sort of series, seeing what things are really great and what things that we think are huge stinkers. So, until next time, take care. And with the power of their minds and their eyes, their faith and their worship, they're able to create these rock-like, fucking hell. And with their faith, they're able to make these rock images. Rock images, fuck off.